practical tools, both inspiration and strategies on learning, leadership coaching, and personal growth to help leaders thrive in the workplace and in life, 1 minute at a time. I'm your host, Dr. Maurine Kwende. I partner with learning and higher education leaders to build unstoppable, future-ready workforces and organizations as the CEO and founder of EMK Learning Solutions. I'd like to welcome you. If you've been on this podcast before, if it's your first time, I'd like to welcome you as a first timer. Thank you so much for dedicating the time to empower yourself as a leader or just someone who's excited about investing in their own personal and professional growth. So once again, you're welcome. I'm your host, Dr. Maurine Kwende. So every month we pick a theme. So the theme of this month is very exciting. It's titled Design Your 2026, right? Because we're 4 weeks away into 2026. So it's designing your 2026 from dream board to bold action, right? So before we ever get to designing anything, right, we want to be able to, first of all, take some time to reflect. That's why today's episode is titled What This Year Has Taught You. So when you think about it, it's really not about a performance review if that's what you're thinking. It's not a performance review from your boss. It is really your own personal year-end review, how you showed up for your dreams, for your leadership, your well-being, your relationships, and your purpose, and your life in 2025. So it's just really taking the time to take a deep dive into, what you learned from this year. So because if you don't pause to understand why the year went the way it went, you just simply copy and paste or probably miss some things, and so you're not really going to be set up for 2026 like you should. So and when you do that, then you start wondering why things didn't happen. So that's why I would like us to take the time today and find out why reflection, first of all, come before the dream board, right? As I just mentioned, before designing your life, you have to, first of all, take some time to reflect, right, and see, what are some things that serve you and what are the things that no longer serve you. Many people approach goal setting, right, a little bit haphazardly, but I would like to do this, as a part two. But first of all, wanting to do part one, as in, reflecting what worked well, what didn't work well, what is still part of your vision, what has, no longer should no longer be part of your vision, and so on and so forth. Okay. So today, I really want you to take some time to reflect as you listen to this episode. While you're working on some things, I'd like you to be intentional. Ask yourself some of those questions. What systems worked for me this year? What patterns were behind my progress or my setback this year? What didn't work and why? All right, today I want you to just walk through this activity to review your year, right? And so we're not here to shame you if things didn't go well, but it's really about gathering the data to inform your next steps, right? So as a leader, you want to make those intentional steps to look at the systems, the goals, the habits, and so some of the context behind your results, right? So I want to encourage you to do that. And so now think about the questions I just asked, right? Think about also the systems failure versus effort failure. What are some things that you experience, right, in terms of systems and efforts? What do they look like, right? You've heard about the Pareto principle before, right? That 20% of your efforts create 80% of your results. So I'd like you to be able to look at it from that perspective. Put things in three different buckets, right? Create a bucket titled wins, right? What are the things you're really proud of? Create another bucket called stagnant areas. Where did you feel stuck? And a third bucket is called setbacks. What are the goals that didn't go as planned, right? And then so with that, you can now ask yourself some essential questions. What 20% of the actions contributed to the 80% of my success this year, right? Maybe it was blocking 90 minutes of focus work in the morning. Maybe it was saying yes to coaching or joining a cohort or, whatever it is. Write those few actions down and keep down, just remember those systems to keep and maintain them for 2026. And now the other 20%, that created your setbacks or stress. You can ask yourself reflection prompts like, what three actions gave you the biggest positive return? And what three habits or patterns consistently make your life harder? When you do that, you're also going to continue to gather the data, right? And when you look at it from effort, right, you also want to be able to ask those questions as well, to look at where was effort, and behavior change, where was there consistency, where could you have leverage better focus, right? And what are some of the some structural changes such as boundaries, delegation, better tools, or different strategies that you could have leveraged, right? And when you think about two or three outcomes that you're disappointed with, which were in relation to system failures, right? What are they, right? And what are some of the small changes that you could make, to make success more likely going forward? So now you've looked at some of those efforts. Also think about it from the perspective of external factors, right? What are some of the things that didn't go as planned, without your control? What are the things that were outside your control? What was within your control that you could have done differently, right? And so when you think about all those things, it also helps to set you up for success. Okay? Sometimes things can impact your year. For example, the CEO leaves, right? There's a budget cut, maybe a decision that is made far above your pay grade, so to speak, right? So once you're able to filter all of this, right, and then be able to really dig in and say, what is it that was really within my control, and what can I do about those situations, right? What are some of the things that triggered feelings of stress, anxiety, resentment, or burnout? Right? What are some things that you don't want to do to continue triggering these feelings that would get into your 2026 and be disrupting your own dreams, right? So you want to write those down as well. So think about the times that you had a feeling of, feeling just constantly drained in back-to-back meetings, right? Could there have been better boundaries or prioritization to allow for a better experience? When were the times that you could make some of those shifts after reflecting on those things? Okay. So now ask yourself, what are some of the skills that you need to build for 2026? What environment would you think you would be ideal for you to thrive? What are some of the responsibilities that drain you that versus the one that fill you? Right? And so you want to be able to write those things down. What three situations this year drained me the most? And what boundary or skill is needed there? What three moments this year made me feel more like, well, this is really my best self? And how can you make intentional steps or take intentional steps to duplicate even more of those kind of moments? Okay? So you want to now take some time to connect lessons to your 2026 vision. So you've just taken some time to just do a review of your year, right? And look at some of those key or pivotal moments in your life or in your year, right? You have filtered out some things that no longer served you. You've also gathered some emotional data. And so with all of that in place, now you're actually in a better place to start looking at, okay, how am I going to analyze this data and put it in a way that serves you, okay? So I would say set some time aside after this, maybe 60 minutes of your journal or workbook, whatever that you use, to be able to write down those actions, right? Actions that created a majority of your progress, maybe. What are some of the three habits that held you back or moved you forward? Write down those things to help you move forward, okay? So with these answers, it's going to help you because they would be the raw material that you're going to need for your 2026 design. So we're going to be talking about next week, we're going to be talking about the next step, right? Looking at your North Star. What's your purpose, right? What are some of the guiding principles that can help you create that 2026 that you like to design, okay? And I also want to just let you know that this month we're going to be putting in place a dream board workshop. Most of you are familiar with a vision board, so it's similar, but it's just a vision board with a twist. So you also have an opportunity to create your own dream board. So gather that data. Take time after this podcast episode to really write down your reflection, reorganize them, and write down your highlights where you want to be able to move towards next year with. Okay, and so I look forward to you joining me next week, and we're going to continue on this same theme of designing your 2026. Right, as you go into this week, I want you to remember you're not going to be starting your 2026 from scratch. Just from completing this episode, you're starting to gather the data and the wisdom, right, to be set up for success in 2026, right? So while some of the data as you go through might be painful, some of them are beautiful, they're all valuable, right? And that's all your experiences, all your data. So use that information wisely as we walk through the theme of this month. And so I'd like to encourage you to honor those experiences, learn from them, write your own reflections, right? And use it as a design to design your year that is going to be exciting 2026. All right. I would like to thank you for joining me on the Empowerment Minutes podcast today. If this episode was really helpful to you, I would like to encourage you to share it with a friend or a coworker, someone who's ready to design their 2026 with intention. All right. Until next time, keep dreaming big and leading boldly. This is your host,